So welcome to my IoT lecture series. So in this lecture, I am going to explain about the sensors for IoT applications. That means what is meant by sensor, what is the characteristics, then what are the different types of sensor, and what basis we need to select the sensor for particular applications. All these topics we are going to discuss in this lecture. Before starting the types and what is meant by sensor, let me ask you some simple question. How does a smart system know the temperature of your room? And one more question is, how does a street light turn on automatically at night? We know it does not happen automatically. So there is some devices, it will give some data or values, and there is a processor, it will process, and finally it will give the input to some output devices. Here the basic, and there is a small device behind all these smart systems. The answer is sensor. The small device is called sensor. So in this video we are going to discuss about what are the sensor and how they play a key role in IoT systems. In IoT, everything starts with data, but data does not come automatically. The reason behind this is the basic element or small device. As I said earlier, the sensor will collect the data from the physical environment. If suppose there is no sensor, then without sensor, so there is no data, no analysis, and there is no IoT system. So that means there is no automatic. So the sensor are the starting point of any IoT system. In IoT ecosystem, the sensor is the first and foremost thing. In sensor is the first and foremost thing in IoT ecosystem. So without sensor, there is no data collection. Without data, how we are going to analyze? That means there is no IoT system. So for any IoT system, the sensor is very, very, very important. So first we can discuss what is a sensor. So the sensor is a device that can detect a physical parameter and converts it into an electrical signals. Some of the examples of physical parameters are the temperature, light, motion, and pressure. So in simple term, a sensor acts like an eyes and ears of an IoT system. So in a human body, the eyes and ears are the very, very basic sensor that will give the signals to our brain. So based on the inputs, brain it will process, then it will give the output. So likewise here the sensor are very, very important in IoT ecosystem. Next one, working of sensor. So we want to know how the sensor is working. So this diagram will explain how sensor works in an IoT system. So first, the sensor detect a physical parameters, then it converts 820 an electrical signal. Then third stage is the signal is sent to microcontroller. Finally, the data is processed and transmitted to cloud. So this is the basic working of sensor. So first it will detect, then it will convert into digital data, then this data is sent to processor or controller. Finally it reaches the cloud. So this is the first step in IoT data flow. If we consider for a simple real-time example, in a smart room we have temperature sensor, so it measures the heat, and there is a motion sensor to detect the presence. So both the sensor, it will collect the information from the environment, and based on the input values or data, here the fan speed can be controlled and the light can turn on or off. So the sensor will help the system take intelligent decision. Based on the values from the sensor, it will get processed by the controller, and finally it goes to cloud. So this is the basic working of sensor. Next, we can see the different types of sensors. Here I can show some 10 types of sensor, starting from temperature sensor. It measures the temperature of the environment, used in weather monitoring and smart homes. Then humidity sensor, DH 11 and 12. Digital temperature and humidity sensor. It can measure the moisture in the air, so used in agricultural and environmental monitoring applications. And third one is light sensor. So it detects the light intensity. We can use this light sensor in automatic street lighting systems. Next, fourth one is motion sensor. The best example for motion sensor is PIR sensor. It detects the movement of objects or humans. So it is used in security and other automation system. And then fifth one is gas sensor. Here the purpose of the gas sensor is it detects any leakage of gases or harmful gases. So mainly used in safety applications. Then sixth one, pressure sensor. So it measures the pressure of gas or liquids. It is used in industrial and automotive applications. Then proximity sensor. It can detect the nearby objects without any contact. So it is used in again automation and robotics. The sensors are normally used. Then soil moisture sensor. It can measure the water content in the soil, and it is used in smart agricultural. The ninth one is ultrasonic sensor. It measures the distance using sound waves. It is normally used in obstacle detection applications. Then finally flame sensor. It detects fire or flame. Again, it is also used in fire safety systems. So all these sensors will collect the different types of real world data for IoT system. Again, depends upon our application. We need to choose which sensor is best suitable for our application, and based on the characteristics and some sensor selection criteria, so we need to choose which is the best sensor for our application. So next one is characteristics of sensor. Now let us see the important characteristics of sensor. The first one is accuracy. Based on the accuracy, we can detect how was the measurement is after sensing the data. We can detect or we can correct how the data is. Based on the values, we can tell the accuracy. Next, sensitivity. It detects some small changes. That is ability to detect small changes. That is called sensitivity. Accuracy means it provides correct measurement. Then range. The minimum and the maximum range. In what maximum and what minimum values it can measure or detect. Then response time. At what speed it can sense and give the output, or how fast the sensor react. And also finally the reliability. That means it consistent performance. Works consistently in all conditions. Irrespective of any conditions, it works consistently. So these are some of the characteristics of good sensor. So based on these characteristics, we need to select which sensor is suitable for our applications. So these factors will determine the quality and the performance of a sensor. And here also I have mentioned some of the applications of sensor in IoT. In real world, the sensor used in many applications, starting from smart home. Here we can use temperature sensor, motion and light sensor for automation. And smart agricultural, here we are going to use soil moisture, humidity and temperature sensor. And healthcare, here heart rate and temperature sensor for patient monitoring. Sometimes we need body temperature and oxygen level. So to measure these parameters, we need some sensor for healthcare applications. And mainly the industrial IoT, industrial Internet of Things. Here we need gas, pressure and vibration sensor for safety and automations. And last, for smart city application, for air quality and traffic monitoring and noise level, we need some different types of sensors. So these applications show how the sensor enable the smart systems. So for any smart applications, we need sensor. Here I have given some of the common sensor interfaces. The interfaces mainly used to communicate sensor with the microcontroller using different interfaces. That means the analog means it is a continuous signal. Digital, it is a binary, either 0 or 1. Then I2C, inter-integrated circuits, it is a two-wire communication. Then SPI, it is also high-speed communication. Where we need high-speed applications, we can prepare serial peripheral interface. Then UART, it is also serial communication, universal asynchronous receiver and transmitter. So these interface will help the transfer the data efficiently from sensor to controller. Then next we can discuss where the sensor fit in IoT architecture. First one, the sensing layer. Totally there are 5 layers are available. Sensor, it belongs to sensing layer. Then they send the data to device layer. That means here we are going to use controllers and gateways. Then the network layer. Fourth one is cloud, where we can store the data, and some analysis also will happen in this cloud layer. Finally, fifth one is application layer. Here the user can interface directly with remaining layer by means of this application layer. So all these layers, the sensors are the starting point of entire IoT system. So from collecting the data to enabling smart applications, the sensor plays a critical role in every IoT systems. So far we have discussed about what is meant by sensor, the types of sensor, characteristics, and some applications. So from this, the sensor are most important part of any IoT systems. They collect real world data and make smart system possible. So without sensor, the IoT cannot exist. So in upcoming videos,